Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and we're doing the Cuman Armor guide. This is something that a lot of people have requested. I've not really held off on it, but I've just been kind of tinkering with some different outfits to see what I actually like. See, in the first game, the Cumans had a distinct set of armor that was made out of lamellar armor. The problem with that is that I would say it's not anachronistic for it to exist at this time period, because as long as it already existed, hypothetically you could see a type of armor at any point in history. Because if the technology and the techniques and the armor itself existed at some point in the past, even if it was 100 years in the past, it could hypothetically still be used in 1403 or 1407 or 1500 or whatever. You could still put the armor on and wear it. Yes, it would not be as effective as, or likely it wouldn't be as effective as the contemporary armor, and people might wonder what the hell you were wearing because it would be so old and outdated by their standards, but you could do it. So it's not really anachronistic to use something that is older than the time. As long as it's not from the future, it's fine. But, with that being said, they had that in the first game. In this game, they do not have that. They have some Cuman-styled clothing, or I should say, a lot of it is Hungarian style, but it makes sense that the Cumans would have adopted that because at this point they were already living in Hungary for a while. But there is some clothing that is styled to go with them, and a couple pieces of armor, mostly just helmets. But everything else we're kind of having to fill in the blanks. So what I did was I went around and looked at a bunch of the different Cumans in the game, saw what they were wearing, and really at the end of the day what it ended up being is the vast majority of them are just not wearing very much armor at all, and the ones that are obviously wearing, you know, the more Czech or German style stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to go through 3 different outfits that I came up with that show, you know, 3 different levels of armor, and I guess you could even call it roleplay characters or styles or whatever, and we'll go through them in our regular armor guide style where I show you all the items, then we talk about stats, all that sort of stuff. So let's just start it off with the lightest one, and for the lightest one, we've got what I'm calling just a Cuman Archer here. This is supposed to be a very light unit. You could use it as a scout, it could just be what's considered maybe a Cuman that's going out hunting or whatever, but I'm calling it the Cuman Archer because that's obviously what we've gone for here. So all of them are going to be equipped with our basic equipment like daggers and torches because it makes sense that they should be, because we're actually doing characters here, or like, I should say full-blown roleplay guides, but whatever. The weapons for this one are going to be the Cuman Chief's Bow, and now you probably could go with a lighter, lower-level Cuman bow would probably be more appropriate, but if I'm doing it, especially for myself, I'm going to go with the best bow I can get that fits it. So the Cuman Chief's Bow, Cuman riding bows are one of the lighter bows, easy to handle even from the horse's saddle. Their strength comes from the layering of different materials similar to better crossbows. This bow is a true masterpiece worthy of a famous Cuman chief. Has a minimum strength of 7 and agility of 10 to use, power of 180, durability of 100, weight of 3 pounds, and a price of 1,081.2 groschen. Then of course you pair with that whatever arrows that you have that are the best, and obviously if you've got black arrows they're the best, otherwise, you know, anything else that's really good. And then I also paired just a Cuman Shashka with it because I really like this weapon. It's cool and unique looking, but I don't really use it all that much, so that would be why I paired it here. And I did not pair it with a shield because you don't have to in the instance like this, as it's just a backup weapon. The Shashka is similar to a long knife, and its distinctive pommel is in the shape of a bird of prey. It originated in the steppes of Kiev, but was also favored by the Cumans of Hungary. So this one has a minimum strength and agility of 2 to use, stab damage of 64, slash damage of 74, blunt damage of 28, defense of 126, durability of 106, weight of 2.2 pounds, and a price of 201.5 groschen. So not ridiculously expensive, but it is a pretty cool weapon, and so as a backup weapon for an archer, I think it fits really well. So that's our weapons for the Cuman Archer. As far as our armor, it's not a whole lot. So we're going to start off with our base level stuff that we're going to be wearing for all of these, which are going to be the Hungarian spurs, which are just one of the more basic options for spurs in the game, and since the Cumans are, you know, currently living in Hungary at the time of this game, it makes sense that we'd stick with the Hungarian spurs over the Rondel spurs, which I also considered. And then we're also going to have a belt and a pouch. It doesn't matter what you use. For these, I just chose to use the Hunter's belt and the Hunter's pouch, mostly just because, to me, it makes sense that if we're doing a, you know, group of nomadic people that favors archery, especially mounted archery so much, that the Hunter's equipment makes sense roleplay-wise, but really anything would be fine. And then we'll go to the actual items. So starting off with our boots, we have the Cuman boots. Cumans are feared opponents, especially for their mounted archery, and they adjust their equipment accordingly. Their riding boots meet the demands for both comfort and confidence in riding. These have a stab defense of 2, slash defense of 4, and blunt defense of 2. Then we have a Cuman caftan, and I went with a red one here because I think it looks good. It says a kaftan is a long men's overcoat with long sleeves. It is a traditional part of the male dress of nomads from the eastern steppes. This one is heavily decorated with an embroidered hem. It has a stab defense of 11, slash defense of 31, and blunt defense of 30. And now keep in mind, unlike the first game, the kaftans are a gambeson layer, unlike in the first game where most, if not all of them, were actually an outer coat layer. So you cannot wear any sort of padded gambeson underneath the kaftan. This is your gambeson. Then we have the Cuman leather hat, a cap made out of raw leather and sewn with leather straps, is an unmistakable headgear of the Cuman Raiders. Has a stab defense of 2, slash defense of 2, and blunt defense of 4. And lastly, we have the loose hose. Only nomads and Hungarian horsemen wear such strangely frilled trousers wrapped tightly around their calves. These have a stab defense of 2, slash defense of 2, and blunt defense of 3. Now, the problem with these hose is that you cannot wear armor over top of them because they don't count as padded leg armor. So if you wear these and you get that cool Cuman aesthetic, remember, you will not be able to put any sort of plate armor over top of them. As far as what this one looks like, I think this one turned out looking pretty sweet, but it definitely has the strong Cuman vibe. So that is the view of the Cuman Archer from the front. Here's what we look like from the side, and there's the Cuman Archer from the back. So like I said, a pretty cool looking suit of armor, or I guess at this layer or at this level, you'd probably just call it an outfit or clothing, because not really a whole lot of armor there at all. We don't even have gloves on, but with that being said, it looks pretty sweet. Stats on this one are also pretty simple and straightforward, considering, we don't have a lot going on here. So every single thing I have equipped, except for Godwin's Ring, is counted in these stats, and we have a total weight of 27.7 pounds, so it's under 30, which makes it, just about right for our suit of clothing. Then our value for this one, including everything, once again, except for Godwin's Ring, is a total value of 1,891.5 groschen, so not a whole lot there. Definitely real low level, real low cost stuff, so nothing too crazy. And then for our AAR, it is also, reflective of the fact that we're not actually wearing any armor. We have a head average of 12.7, torso of 34, arms of 10, and legs of 15, giving us an overall average armor rating, or AAR, of 18. So 18 is not too terribly good. This is not a suit of armor you'd want to be on the front lines getting bashed with. So for this one, if you want to play as a light nomad, mounted horseback archer, or maybe a sneaky hunter, or something along those lines, it's definitely solid for that. But other than that, not great as far as armor value is concerned. So that's our Cuman Archer, the first one we're looking at today. Let's move on to our second one. And here we have the second suit of armor that we're going to be looking at today, and I'm just calling this one the Cuman Rider because it falls under the category of what kind of an average of what the vast majority of the Cumans that you'll encounter in the game look like. Now, there's lots of variation, especially in your sort of extremities, but I think this sums it up quite well and also looks pretty good. So starting us off with weapons, we'll start with the Cuman Focos. It's an axe. This one says a Cuman long-handled Focos, a fast and agile weapon of the Hungarian Raiders. It can pierce light armor or the skull of a good Christian. Has a minimum strength of 7 and agility of 0 to use. Does 0 for stab damage, 85 for slash damage, 43 for blunt damage. Has a defense stat of 114, durability of 100, weight of 5.6 pounds, and a price of 548.6 groschen. And with that, I did pair the Cuman Shield, a circular Cuman Shield used by light Hungarian horsemen, with a defense stat of 250, durability of 33, weight of 7.5 pounds, and a price of 130.3 groschen. And then, of course, once again, we paired a dagger and a torch with it. So I did go with a shield and an axe for this one, just because, well, A, I like using the axes whenever I can, because they're a severely underrated weapon, in my opinion, and this one also looks very cool and is very unique, and B, when you're going with something this light armor, you definitely want a shield. A lot of people are like, why would I use a shield? Especially if they're using a one-handed sword, because they can get so many boosts, or buffs, I should say, using that one-handed sword without a shield. But for one thing, A, the axe doesn't get nearly as many buffs, and you can't Master Strike with it, and B, people always seem to forget projectiles. If you're wearing a full suit of heavy plate armor, yes, you can take a couple arrows. If you're not, if you're wearing light armor, you do not want to be getting hit by arrows, because they'll kill you really fast. So that's why you're going to want that shield to catch those projectiles. It's not just about melee combat. The shield is good against arrows. So with all that being said, that's the weapons for the Cuman Rider. Moving on to his clothing, we're going to have sort of the same base layer that we had with the last one. So we're going to once again have the Hunter's Belt and the Hunter's Pouch. We also once again have the Hungarian Spurs, the Cuman Cuman boots are the same as before, as are the loose hose, but then from there on out we change. So we're no longer wearing the Cuman caftan, this time we're wearing the quilted caftan, which is a, more robust armored version just with higher stats. So a caftan is a long men's overcoat with long sleeves. It is a traditional part of the male dress of nomads from the eastern steppes. This one is also quilted for better durability. Has a stab defense of 14, slash defense of 47, and blunt defense of 35. So stat-wise, we've moved up a significant approach. Then we're going to have a little bit more armor on this one. So for our head, we're going to have the mail collar. A short chainmail collar called a gorget protects the neck and guards the warrior from being cut or penetrated by a blade under the visor of the helmet. Has a stab defense of 17, slash defense of 35, and blunt defense of 37. Then we're also going to need a coif since we're going to be wearing a helmet, so we had to have just the padded coif. Sturdy padded cap, serving as a soft underlayer beneath the helmet. A good soft padding is simply essential even for tough guys. This has a stab defense of 28, slash defense of 39, and blunt defense of 33. Then of course our helmet on the top, I went with the bassinet with aventail, and I went with one of the Cuman variants of that. A helmet called a bassinet with a wide chainmail aventail that protects the neck and shoulders of the warrior. Has a stab defense of 99, slash defense of 78, and blunt defense of 29. Now, there are Cuman crested helmets that are basically the exact same as this, but they have a big aventail that covers the rest of the face and neck. I almost went with one of them because they obviously do look a little bit more Cuman, and obviously they also provide more protection. But I really liked the open face look of this one and how much lighter it made the overall suit of armor look. So I did go with this one. If you don't have one of these variants, there are 3 Cuman variants of the bassinet with aventail. If you don't have one, then obviously the Cuman crested helmet is a great choice for the suit of armor, but keep in mind you will lose that cool open face look that we get with that one. Then for our arm protection, we have the couters with rondel, simple elbow pads with round rondels. Unless one can afford better armor, every protection counts. These have a stab defense of 24, slash defense of 32, and blunt defense of 15. For our main torso armor, we just have the hauberk long. We're just wearing chainmail for this. And now, that is not abnormal for this time period. Mail armor was very prevalent, and lots of people would wear it as their outermost layer because, well, from a cost perspective, yes, mail would have been more expensive than gambeson or anything, but it provides a substantial leap in protection over gambeson and is something that's much more maneuverable despite the fact that it is very loud and heavy. So that is our outer layer of armor for this Cuman outfit. So it says a long chainmail shirt with short sleeves covering only the arms of its wearer. This has a stab defense of 33, slash defense of 68, and blunt defense of 55. So that is the entire outfit for our Cuman Rider. For stats on this one, we have a total weight of 73.4 pounds, so it definitely got heavier than that first one, but not out of the realm of what's normal for a somewhat light suit of armor in this game. Actually, I've had full suits of plate armor that only weigh barely more than this, so you can see that we're dealing with a lot of weight here. Then we have a total value, once again including absolutely everything I have equipped except for Godwin's Ring, of 3,811.8 groschen, so about 2,000 groschen more than our first suit. Not all that crazy considering we didn't really add too much. We have a helmet and some extra headgear, we have the mail, and we have the couters, but everything else is still basically just a pretty basic Cuman outfit. Then our AAR for this one will go down from the top. So the head has an average of 141.7, huge improvement there. Torso of 93.7, another big improvement. Arms of 33.7, not that massive of an improvement. And a legs of 15, so the same as the first outfit, because as you can see, we didn't add any armor to the legs. So that brings our average armor rating, or AAR, to 71. Definitely still not what most people would probably consider a lot of protection, but, a pretty huge leap over the first one. As far as what it looks like, here's our view of the Cuman Rider from the front. There's what it looks like from the side, and there is the view from the rear. So overall, I'd say it definitely looks right for what you'd expect a rank and file, or I guess standard Cuman Raider to look like. They don't have a crazy amount of armor. Like I said, you'll find Cumans in the game that are wearing a lot more armor than this, but a lot of them are wearing about this much. There'll be, especially I've noticed variations on the sleeves, but other than that, this is pretty representative of what you see on most Cumans that you'll encounter in the game. This or less, because a lot of them won't even have the chainmail. But that is our Cuman Rider. Let's move on to our third and final outfit for today. And here we have the third and final outfit, which is about the heaviest you can possibly come, in my opinion, still looking very, very Cuman. So, for this one, our weapons are going to be mostly the same of what we've looked at so far. We obviously have the torch and dagger again. We're once again equipping the Cuman shield and the Cuman chief's bow, and we've paired some arrows with it. This time our unique weapon is the Ataman saber, which is probably the best Cuman-themed weapon you can get in the game, since it's one of the best one-handed swords that you can get in the game. So this one is an unusual curved blade used by nomads on fast horses in the Hungarian steppes and remote Arabian deserts. This swift weapon excels at offense and defense alike. Every good Christian should beware of losing his head to such a weapon. This has a minimum strength of 13 and agility of 17 to use, has a stab damage of 111, slash damage of 138, blunt damage of 25, defense of 242, durability of 210, weight of 2.2 pounds, and a price of 1,614.1 groschen. So definitely a pretty serious weapon, and again, it is one of the best one-handed weapons in the game, so it's obviously the one I had to go with here. Then moving on to our armor, we're going to have mostly the same stuff. We had to change out the legs, so once again, we're starting off with the same stuff. So we have the hunter's pouch, the hunter's belt, we have the Hungarian spurs, we're still wearing the same Cuman boots, we have the same quilted caftan that we had on for the last outfit, but we swapped out the loose hose for the quilted hose because we needed quilted leg armor so we could have leg armor. So simple quilted leggings, not exactly the pinnacle of tailoring skill, can be used alone or as a softening underlayer beneath better armor. They have a stab defense of 32, slash defense of 43, and blunt defense of 34. Then on top of that, we've changed out a couple more things. We have the same male collar that we had last time, but this time we have a male coif instead of the padded coif, which is a quilted hood with a collar and a wide male hood, stab defense of 24, slash defense of 60, and blunt defense of 51. We have the same hauberk long, but that's where all the similarities end because now all the rest of our top stuff is unique and new. So we have the Cuman helmet with a mask, a foreign pointed helmet with a visor in the form of an iron mask. Cumans are said to have adopted it from wild nomads called Kipchaks, who are said to drink mare's milk from buffalo horns and live far out on the eastern steppes. The face with mustache perhaps represents some mythical progenitor of all these nomads. They have a stab defense of 130, slash defense of 95, and blunt defense of 34. Then for our sleeves, we went with the laminar sleeves with rondels, full arm protectors consisting of forged slats mounted on solid cowhide leather, supplemented by shoulder protection in the form of a simple forged rondels. This has a stab defense of 115, slash defense of 83, and blunt defense of 30. Then we have the noble's gauntlets, fingered gauntlets made in brigandine style, i.e. by layering lamellae and riveting them to the leather base. The division of the glove into individual fingers does not restrict crossbow loading or archery, and of course we want that because this person is also an archer. So we have a stab defense of 112, slash defense of 80, and blunt defense of 30. For our legs, we have the old brigandine legs, protection of the entire leg formed by individual iron plates riveted to the honest cowhide leather. This is an older form of folded armor, which can be seen especially in the shape of the knee pads. They have a stab defense of 112, slash defense of 80, and blunt defense of 29. And then lastly, for our torso armor, we have the simple brigandine, and I used this brown variant because you're able to get a level 4 or Henry's Mastercrafted level 1 up in Sigismund's camp. You can take it out of one of the tents in the upper ring. So that would be why I went with this color for all of the items we're wearing, because I wanted this item to be used in the suit of armor. So it says folded armor made up of a number of forged plates hammered side by side under a leather vest of good cowhide. A well-made brigandine has the individual plates folded so that they overlap slightly. Compared to a plate cuirass, it is a little cheaper to make, but still a very expensive part of a warrior's armor. This has a stab defense of 127, slash defense of 91, and blunt defense of 34. So that is all of the items that make up our Cuman Commander, the top level that we're looking at today as far as what you can wear and still look like a Cuman in this game. So, stats on this one, we have a total weight of 120 pounds, so it's quite possibly the heaviest suit of armor I've ever put together for a video like this. I haven't measured everything I've ever wore in the game, but for the armor guides I've done, I don't know that I've had any go over 120 pounds before. I could just be forgetting, but honestly, that's really heavy. Then we have a total value, again, including absolutely everything except for Godwin's Ring, of 12,857.6 groschen. So definitely not crazy considering this is pretty much top tier armor for a Cuman. I mean, maybe you could swap out the simple brigandine for a Milanese brigandine, since I've seen Cumans wear the Milanese brigandines in this game. But other than that, if you want to get that, you know, far more unique Cuman look, this is pretty much the best that I was able to come up with. And being almost 13,000 groschen is pretty dang affordable for, you know, arguably the Cuman Commander style of armor. Then for our armor value itself, just going down the averages, for the head we have an average of 171, for the torso it's 177.7, for the arms it's 160, and for the legs we are down at 123. So definitely way better armor value than the first two suits we looked at, but this is the first full one that we've done today, so I guess that makes sense. And that gives us an overall average armor rating, or AAR, of 158. So definitely pretty solid. It falls right into that range of the sort of medium knight category. I kind of usually figure the 150 to 170 range falls somewhere in that market. It's definitely way better armor than a lot of the enemies you'll encounter, but it's not nearly as good as you possibly could get. A fairly good suit of armor for playing a balanced playthrough. So that is stats for this one. Taking a peek at the suit of armor from the outside, you can see this is our view from the front, and again, we managed to keep fairly consistent with all of the torso stuff. I went a little bit lighter with the legs, and I had some that were a little bit, you know, sort of more of this orangish brown that would have matched the brigandine and the sleeves and everything, but I kind of actually like the way the lighter ones look. And, you know, since we're wearing the red caftan underneath anyway, it's not like we're going monochromatic. I just think it looks pretty good overall. So that's our front view with the visor down. There's our view from the side, and there is the rear view. So definitely a very Cuman looking suit of armor, and like I said, it also provides decent protection. So this one is the highest level that I was able to come up with. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't a lot more suits of Cuman armor that you could come up with in this game. I had 2 variants of helmets that I didn't use, and there's obviously lots more variation that you could do. We could do plate sleeves with mail and a caftan. You could do plate sleeves with just a caftan. I think that looks pretty good, despite the fact that it doesn't offer all that much protection. There is a lot of freedom for what you can wear in this game and still look like a Cuman. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any requests, let me know. This video came as a result of lots of requests. So with all that being said, thanks for watching and have a nice day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.